former trainer of the year, Virgil Hunter, and I really enjoyed listening to John, Charles, and Frank on Real Boxing Talk.
Okay, once again, we are on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is Real Boxing Talk. We are talking about real boxing, and we had real boxing to talk about this weekend, or last week, I should say. Since Mr. Farmer's doing a dumpster dive over there, we'll start with John. And since he has the right, Mr. Farmer has the right to not have to participate in this particular part, because we're going to ask what went right for Charlo and what went wrong for not for Castano. And since there was no reason for Charles to say what went right or wrong because he got it right, we'll start with John. What did we miss, John?
Well, I see. I'm gonna completely wimp out here and say that I was only going on a feeling.
Going on a feeling.
And I did not put any money on Castano because by the next day I had lost that feeling, asked myself what I was thinking about, and figured that Charlo was going to win. I wasn't as fearless as Charles would say by stoppage, but I figured he would win. And what was most impressive, and it was a tight fight still, it was a good fight, but he was better this time. You could see it. And that's the point, is he was sharper. And Castano was Castano, but Charlo's got a dynamite left hook. And, I was just glad for him because he's like one of those guys that you just wonder if he's good and everything, and he never gets any credit. He's always not as good as everybody says. And we've been kind of saying similar things, not that negative about him, but he really grew into himself. I mean, he fought a perfect fight, and he ended it perfectly with a left hook, like I said. And and Castano was really a good fighter. So, all due to Charlo, he showed what he is at 154. And hopefully Terrence Crawford can fight Spencer Move. But he's got other challenges if he wants it.
Well, okay, so this may be the first Blue Suede Hooked on a Feeling reference for the show, so that's pretty good. Yes, I remembered it was Blue Suede. Anyway, all right, Charles is going, what the hell is he talking about? Yes, John was hooked on a feeling, and anyway. All right, so Charles, what did you see that you already, the prescience of your imagination saw before?
Well, I mean,
prescience, whatever.
Yeah, okay. I think part of it is that you just kind of saw, you had to think back to what Charlo did in rematches, right? Saw what he did to Harrison. And Castano's a hell of a fighter. I get that. I mean, I like the way he is. And I just also like Derrick James in the corner, right? Derrick James, kind of goes to work and he knows exactly what's going on. Did the same thing for Errol Spence in certain situations that they had a game plan. The question is whether or not, Jermell Charlo could execute it. And not only did he execute it, he executed brilliantly. But I think it was just that factor that the way that he fights and the way he has that will, he has a mean streak. And I think Jermell Charlo was like, you know what? Yeah, you felt real good about who you were. And I think the other part that really probably got to him, because he's an emotional dude, the fact that the fight was delayed and then he thought old boy was stalling.
Right.
I really think that got to him like, you just you trying to make me wait when you know what it is. And I think at that point, like, if I can, I'm gonna get in this guy. I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna put the work in, I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna win this fight. And I think that's what got me over because he doesn't like to lose. We know that.
Right.
He's probably one of the biggest losers. I mean, he used to lose, sore losers. His brother is a little bit more low key. He's the angry one of the bunch. Jermell is like, he'll fight. Jermell will fight you in the bathroom, man. Seriously, if there wasn't enough soap and you got in the way and you took the last soap, and you pissed him off enough, in about 12 seconds, he tried to knock the hell out of you. He's a very competitive individual. And but his passion, you can tell his passion. But I thought that alone would get him over. And I thought he just wanted to. Another thing too, I love him. By the way, I love his fire because it reminds me of myself when I used to compete in sports. When you tell him he can't do something or you make him mad, he takes that energy and he tries to take it to the next level. He wants to prove you so wrong, so bad that he's willing to go, hey guys, oh, for real? That's what you think? You don't think I'm good enough? Or I'm not this, I'm not that. And for some people, it might be a turnoff. But I love it that he can dive into his fire. Sometimes a little bit too much outside the ring when he's talking, but inside the ring, it's perfect.
You know, this is I'm going to take an opportunity here to not comment on your competitiveness and move on to the show. So anyway, no, but but the point's taken. I understand exactly what you're saying. That for some people, that fire burns too bright and it burns them up. But for some people, that's the energy that they need or they desire to get them to go to the next level. And people that don't have that energy and don't know how to contain that energy, you know, some fiery Italian American may not understand what I'm trying to say here. But the idea being that it fuels you and you're able to control that. I always looked at John McEnroe and go, how did he play when he's that angry? Well, that's what he did. Other people would have just made you go out of control and lose it. But some people, that's what it works. So for what he's saying, John, how does that go to, I have a couple thoughts here of what I want to talk about. Let's go this way. Let's scrap that thought. Let's go this way. So we now have undisputed champion. How many undisputed champions do we have now?
How many what?
Undisputed champions do we have in boxing right now?
Let's see. Well, with Josh Taylor, we did, but I think he got stripped, so he's not.
Yeah, that one doesn't count. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't count. But we had Canelo was undisputed, and Charlo now is 2. So I'm trying to think. Spence is not because Crawford has the WBO belt. Light heavyweight is going to be Smith and Duval. So go down to the smaller weights. I think that's it. I mean, I certainly could be wrong, but I think it's just 2 divisions that are undisputed. And so it's cool when somebody's undisputed because there's so many damn belts now that when somebody has all the belts, that says a lot.
And the point I'm making with that is because normally, and I know we say it a lot, the belts don't mean as much as they used to and all that, but it is the way keeping score. So when we're looking at someone who is now taking care of their division, and now we're looking at how do we make that work, or how do they make it work with the Charlo twins? Does one of them move up and the next moves up? How does it play out? Have you outgrown the division, or do you sit there and go, anyone else want to play? So we're looking at this Charlo as being king of his castle, supposedly. What happens now? Do we look at, I know we're jumping ahead here, but we're looking at, okay, what happens with Crawford and Spence? Who moves up? Who does that? Or is it like, I'm cool right here. Bring it on, fellas. For John.
Oh, I thought that was going to be for Charles. So,
Yeah.
so I was daydreaming. Ask me again.
What do we end up with Charlo? And does he stay at this weight? Does he move up? Does his brother move up? What happens? What do we do here?
Well, he could stay at 154 because he has fights there. But I kind of think that he's going for the big bucks now as much as possible. So he could move up to middleweight and fight everybody but his brother, of course. But he's got opportunities. I mean, I don't know if Conor Benn would want to come up and fight him. That would be an incredible fight. Right. You know, Ben is a rising prospect, and Charlo is Charlo. So some of the guys we like, I don't think he'd fight Harrison again, even though Harrison looks so good. That big giant that I like that I call the towering giant, I mean, he's got that one. But if he wants the big bucks, he might just lay low for a while and see what happens with Crawford and Spence. Who knows? Maybe Spence might want to come up and fight him instead of hanging around to fight that guy by the name of Boots, who looked devastating last week.
Right? Yeah,
as usual. I think Boots has got everybody a little like, whoa, this guy is. He's young too, unlike a lot of them. So, yeah, he I'm not quite sure what he's going to do because he's got options, and I mean, I'd love him to go up to 160 and fight Andre. I mean, wouldn't that be fun? Give Demetrius a shot at somebody instead of saying, I don't know him.
Right, exactly.
F you, get out of here. Your fights are ugly. I don't even know who you are. Like Canelo. So this fight, just give Demetrius a shot. So he is a champ. Demetrius is a champ. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm probably the only fan Demetrius has got left now, so that's pretty sad. But yeah, he's got a lot of places he can go if he wants, and I mean, he's in the driver's seat. He's in a great seat. I mean, this was the best victory of his career, no doubt about it. So he can rest on his laurels and just kind of wait around and see what happens with the division. But either way, it's all gravy for him. Somebody come up, him go up. I mean, he go up to 160 and fight Golovkin. If Golovkin and Canelo doesn't happen here in September, Golovkin won't fight him though. No, no, I don't think. But yeah, he's got lots of options.
Well, okay, Charles, you're laughing. I'm not even going to ask a question. You were just laughing. So go ahead and expound.
No, I mean, it's just the factor that when you mentioned about Andre, I mean, I know John, you know, I admire John's loyalty to Andre. I admire it because nobody else is that loyal. But I'm just saying, when the main guy tells you go kick rocks, then you kind of out there, and Charlo's not even paying attention, and nobody else really is.
Nobody is.
Yeah, which is really sad. But I mean, I think that with that being said, in the Andre case, I think he really has you gotta go fight somebody else, man. Somebody that they respect or whatever, and take a fight that might be a little risky, but you gotta do it, because if you say you're good as you are, that'll get some people's attention. And sometimes that's what you have to do. If the big guys are not gonna give you what you're looking for, you got to take some risk and go, hey, you know what? Y'all think this guy's really good, and I'm gonna go after him and go after this guy. But if he try to do the regular campaign, it's almost as if Andre has done every campaign known to man, every marketing employee in the world. Got me nowhere. When that doesn't work,
right,
sometimes you just got to sign on the dotted line and go to work, man. You got to let your work speak for itself, and hopefully one of the associations will say, hey, you deserve to be ranked here now because of what you did. But that old ploy of he's done everything, tried to be Ali, tried to call people out, tried to do whatever. No matter what it is, he's been rough. So might take a risk.
Well, and he's the one with the belt. That's the part that doesn't make any sense to me. People should be running to him, not running away from him, or him running for whatever. So, okay. Now, I just thought of this. And it's something that I hadn't really thought about for a while, but I just thought of this. I'm going back to the Klitschko brothers. One had this belt, one had that belt, and they kind of split it in half. These are twins, identical twins, basically. And I can't tell them apart. I can't tell them apart even when they're in the ring and one of them's, 8 pounds less than the others. If I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, they're basically the same weight. It's just they've chosen that one fights in a division above the other. And it looks like they could both make it easily to 160, 168, whatever. Why don't they do that and split it?
What was that again? I didn't hear you.
I said, why don't they just do that, go up to 168 and go, you take this side, I'll take that side.
I mean, they could. I mean, it's very possible that they could, but Charlo's been the heavier Charlo has been wanting to fight Canelo for a few years, and Canelo doesn't tell him to go F himself like he told Andre, but he does mention him. He does say, yeah, okay, well, that could be happening, but as we see, it doesn't happen. So it might now, maybe it will. I don't know, but he could. I don't know. Jamel could be possibly waiting for Crawford. Like I said, it's possible because he think I'm going to make more money in that fight than I make if I make it some smaller ones,
right,
defenses. But it's a risky thing because it might not happen. Things can happen. They don't even have Spence and Crawford signed yet. All the talk and everything, have no date, no venue, no nothing. So, yeah, they could be like Vladimir and Vitali, right? That's what you're talking about. Both be heavyweights, both be champions. It's possible, but yeah, I kind of like how one stayed at 154 and one stayed at 160, so they can wipe out the division themselves. And then if he say, okay, Jamal, you move up to 168, I'll move up to 160 if there's still some fights left. But that's the thing. And again, my original point, both of them have options, especially Jamel now after this. And Lara is screaming that he wants to fight. But who wants to fight Lara? I mean, he's another guy that nobody wants to fight because he's a stinker. He makes you look bad every time because he's such a good boxer. So you're not going to want to do that. I think if I'm him, I'm not thinking about moving up exactly yet, but I'm thinking about where's the money. So if that means I'm going to move up that's where I'm going, because I'm 31, 32 years old, and I don't know how I've had 36 fights. Who knows how long I got. So this is my time. After this last fight, I'm going to cash in and try to make as much as I can now.
Well, Charles, we end up making this around the business of matchmaking, and maybe that's not the important thing. Let's look at, as you like to say, styles make fights. Who is out there now for this particular gentleman that can give him a fight, regardless of whether they're the right weight class right now? What would make it interesting to go, I pay to see that fight?
Well, the Andre fight would be interesting. It would be. I mean, you talking about Styles. Who's gonna pay for it though? I mean, but you said Styles.
Yeah.
Styles. John would be the only one paying for it. Styles, and the rest of the Andre family. But look, allegedly.
Pretty much.
Allegedly. Anyway, but no. Andre. Also too. The Crawford. If Crawford won, if he beats Spence, Crawford, I think style wise it would be interesting. Because you got this guy who's smaller, quicker, swears he's like, he's a tough guy, which he is, going against a bigger, stronger guy that says you don't belong here. And I think that you don't belong up here with me. You're small, and the fact that you're running your mouth and talking, it's like two guys that swear that they can change and adjust accordingly. And I think that would make for a good fight. I'm trying to think who else. Style wise, just because, and I know you're gonna say it's crazy, I want to see it, even though the guy probably get knocked the hell out. I want to see it because it would be bizarre, and he would go down on the shield, Fundora, bro. Just because he would come on he would fall on his shield, he probably would get destroyed after about round 5. But he would give you everything. He would throw uppercuts. Kind of like what he do with Lubin, right? He sacrificed his whole life, and he's young enough that it would be something like that too. And then I was hoping it would be a rematch with Lubin, but Lubin didn't make it happen. So that just kind of made you go And I'm trying to think who else. I tell you who's big enough to do it, but it's not gonna happen because he's not gonna move up real quick. But I like to see this fight because everybody talking about it, and we're talking about what it was or whatever. But I'm gonna tell you, and John, you're gonna think I'm crazy as hell, but I'm throwing it out there because I think he will fight him. I think it'd be a good matchup but it's jumping ahead. Anyway, I love to see Boots fighting. I would love to see Boots fight him at 154. I would love that fight. Boots is a big dude, man. Boots is a big dude.
He is.
I like to see that 154. I know that's waiting around for a while, but if Boots, here's my thing, and I think I've heard them mention this. If Boots doesn't get what he's looking for at 147, like neither one of those guys want to fight him because they don't think he earned it or whatever. Boots, we've been hearing about Boots and his dad saying he's ready, and what he's showing us, I skill-wise, I have not seen anything told me he's not ready.
He's ready.
So if you say you're ready, let's go to the show, baby. Let's go to Hollywood. Let's go after the man sitting over there. You know that Charlo's sitting over there going like, if you run your mouth long enough, you can get this. If you run your mouth long enough, you can get this. And style-wise, I think it'll be amazing just to watch because then we get a chance to see Boots, for everything, but Boots fighting a guy that we know is going to bring it too. I know they're trying to move him up, Crawford or somebody else, 147 if they get that opportunity. But the way that they are talking is as if Boots is like the second coming of somebody. The style-wise, that's the fight I want to see because now he gets to make me quiet. My opinion changes because we know what Jermell Charlo, he's not going to let anybody come in this house and rob him a second time. So anyway, I like to see that fight.
Okay, so we're on board with Fundora finally. Is that it? Okay, even though I've been on board for a while.
Frank and I think Tim Zua would be an interesting fight, because he's a real aggressive fighter. Mm-hmm. So he's got flaws and he got floored in his last fight, but he won. He's undefeated, son of a former champion. Great storyline. Is he ready? No, but he thinks he is. He's been calling out Charlo for a while. So Charlo he could take him on if he wants, and that's just going to depend on Charlo. Is Charlo going to? I think he'd rather fight the Fundora, because he probably figures that Fundora would be fun and the Dora would go down. So I think he likes the thought of that more than Zua. Zua might be technically more sound, but yeah, that's another good one. He got a couple of young guys, you know, Zua and Fundora, that he can fight, and if he wants, again, it's up to him.
Well, John, we've also looked at it historically. Most people aren't welterweight size, and I'm going to process this in my head as I'm saying it. Most people either move up to welterweight from lightweight, or they start at welterweight and move up to something else. Of the welterweights we have currently that are in this mix, how many of them are saying, man, I'm tired of making this weight? Who's ready to, who should be jumping up?
Well, I think Errol Spence is ready to move up. I do. I think he's ready. I think he's been ready for a while now, and I think he wants to. My feeling is that he knows that he can make buku bucks against Crawford, and then he feels he's going to win, and then he's going to move up to 154. And so no matter what, no matter who wins between Crawford and Spence, your mouth's got to water, because you're thinking, if Spence wins and then he moves up and challenges Charlo, and Charlo says, yeah, okay, you know, I'm tired of you talking all the time anyway, I'll fight. Whoa. I mean, that's another super fight as far as I'm concerned. Right. So, and yeah, Crawford, I think Spence easier. I think Crawford's a little bit of a smaller guy, but he can move up to 154. Spence is a bigger dude. He's like Boots, you know, he's got a bigger frame.
Yeah, right.
Right. So the rest of them, they're smaller people. I mean, it can be done, but I just think it's easier. And Charles is right on about Boots. I mean, Boots is just going to keep growing. He could end up being a middleweight or super middleweight in five or so years, because you could see he's got a big frame, and he's just still growing into his body, you know. So he's a scary specimen right now, but not looking at the list. Those are the two guys, Crawford and Spence, that come to mind immediately, that they can move up. Crawford's talking about it. Spence mentioned it a few years ago, so you know they're thinking about it. It's hard to make 147 a lot. I'm sure it is. I mean, it almost kills them to make that weight.
I remember having problems making 147. That's excuse me. I choked on that one. Couldn't even say that. So I was like, well, when was that? Well, when I was 12. Yeah. But okay, so let's look at where we're headed now. And let's skip that. Charles, we mentioned Boots, and we mentioned that the present, or the future. What was the present like? Did you see the Boots fight?
Yeah, I did. He was amazing. I mean, he was sharp. He did what he had to do. It's almost like he fought the perfect fight. It's almost like you wanted to see him fight more. You wanted to see more. You wanted more action, but he gave it to you, and he said, "Oh, it's kind of like easy work." And I like that. I like his confidence, but I need to see him, man. I need to see him. I need to see him challenged. He's not the only one. I need to see him challenged, and it's not his fault. So no, I mean, he did exactly what he's supposed to do. They tried to pump up his opponent like he was worthy, and no, man. Yeah, certain things, Can we be real about this? I know the promoters, what they do. They go, well, when you really look at it, you look good against this guy. I mean, coming in, when the man comes in and says, your opponent says, well, I'm going to just do the best I can. I'm going to come in and fight. Nah, bro. Against Boots Ennis? Nah, not happening. So anyway, I mean, Boots was spectacular. He looked very good. He's still in the infancy in a lot of ways, but they say they're ready. He called it out Spence. He called it out, whatever. So it's time. I mean, granted, he might have to wait, but then if he doesn't get what he wants to, again, like I said, he went. If let's say, for instance, he's already won. Spence and Crawford do whatever they're going to do, but if Boots is real serious, I mean, seriously, he talking, about those guys talking about jumping to 154. You might be able to get Charlo on the spring if you're serious. I'm just saying that if you say you want to shock the world and these 147 dudes don't want to fight you, you can jump. You can see that Charlo in the spring. Charlo would do that at 154. It's early enough, springtime. You might Canelo lost, so he got to give up that May date. Somebody might as well take it over. So and that's really not the true Mexican holiday anyway. Anyway, y'all heard me. Y'all know what the true Mexican holiday is, made up holiday. Anyway, and you know I love that holiday though. Don't get me wrong. So as he's talking, Frankie expressing himself, you got to unmute yourself there, brother.
So if I thought I did that, my bad. Okay. All right. So as you can tell, there's some background noise here, so I'm trying to make it as equitable as possible. Here's what I think is interesting. And what Charles has said, I think is a perfect thing. When we're looking at Boots in the welterweights, he's still quote unquote unseasoned. At least that's what we're saying. Because this fight wasn't a 12-round fight. This fight wasn't, well, definitely to go 12 rounds, but it wasn't designed for him to be able to be stretched out. But what Charles says is making sense. If he just bypasses the welterweights, he could be the next in line for the next belt. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but I think it's pretty close, don't you?
Yeah, and a name popped into my head that we all know, and I was going to ask you guys if you were going to throw. I was going to be a frank and throw the question at you guys and ask you if you would do this. How about if you're managing a man by the name of Keith Thurman, and you see Boots, and you see what Boots is doing, and you're waiting, you're not getting any younger, you know what Boots is, do you say, I want to fight him. I want to fight this Boots guy. I want to knock him on his boots or knock him out of his boots. I can beat him. Do you risk it, or do you keep waiting until whatever, because nobody's getting younger here?
Charles, I'll let you go first at that.
Sure. If I'm managing Keith Thurman, I told him I would say I don't want to have anything to do with Boots Ennis.
Right.
Because he's young, and if you lose right now with Boots Ennis, you don't get another shot. So if you say you want the Thurman or you want a Crawford shot, right, and you don't get that, why not go after somebody that they've already kind of put up there, somebody they thought was really good, whatever. And what I've heard before is that you can fight the Dennis Ugas. I'll fight Ugas, but I don't want any. If I was him, you don't want to have anything to do with Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis is fiery. I mean, you might win, but it'll probably be your last fight. And that's just being honest and straight up the way he's coming at him and young and Keith Thurman, if he's really where is his attitude? Does he really want to fight? We heard him say that, but you kind of wonder in the back of his mind, he going with a serious beat down, or he just want to walk away. So you won your comeback fight, right? People talk about you in the mix. Why do that to yourself? Maybe down the line, if he has a title, he has a big title, he wins, and he says, I'm gonna shut that old man up, and it's for the marbles, you take the risk. Right now, I don't see the advantage of it for him taking that risk. What reward comes back to him for fighting Boots?
Well, I'm of the mind, if I'm managing Keith Thurman, I'm trying to get him a Campbell Soup commercial. I'm not even letting him in the ring. I mean, there's no point in this. I mean, especially in this configuration. I'm not sure he needs to get in the ring for anybody, but let alone for this guy. I'm like, oh, you want to be active? Okay, we can go down to 7-Eleven and we can do some book signings or something, but we're not getting involved with this. And I understand what you're saying. And if Keith Thurman was 4 years younger, 5 years younger, maybe. But this, and as Charles said, he could win the fight and lose the war. So I don't know that there's a point in that at all. It would be interesting for us to see it, but I don't know if the long-term effects of this is a good thing for Keith Thurman or not. And as I'm looking at the rest of things, as we mentioned, I don't know that we've mentioned it, that it boils down to Crawford Spence with Boots looming there. What other welterweights are there that we're really concerned with right now? And we've recycled this guy. We've recycled Sean Porter, which I know we're going to do. Who else are we going to recycle? Who are the up-and-comers, the guys we got to really be concerned with that we're really thinking about? What are we going to look at? Or is there anybody else we have to deal with? I don't know.
Well, yeah, Virgil Ortiz is good.
Yeah.
Was that for me or was that for Charles?
That's you. Start you.
For
Go
me?
ahead.
Okay, yeah. Virgil Ortiz is a dynamite fighter too. Conor Benn is extremely explosive. I mean, he's getting better and better every fight. It would have been fun to see him fight Kell Brook, but I'm glad that Kell Brook retired it. I'm glad that Amir Khan didn't take it on either. It's like, no. So those are two young guys, and there's other guys that are they're in their 20s, but Ortiz and Conor Benn, from what I've seen, they're the rising, they're the future. Ortiz, every time I've seen that kid, he's impressive. So I'd love to see him fight Boots. Oh my! I smile because I just imagine how that would be, because they're both so talented. But the welterweights are in pretty good shape. They're pretty deep because the younger guys are coming up and they're good. They're not just like the heavyweights where they're like. There's some good. There's other names that I'm sure I'm forgetting. I'm looking at Mikey Garcia is still there, but he's older. But Cody Crawley is good too. He's 21-0. So I haven't seen him fight as much, but he's another young one. So there's some really impressive youngsters out there that are coming, and I think Crawford and Spence and them are feeling it.
But the guys that are ready to challenge right now, and to see that's the thing, Mikey Garcia, we've been talking about Mikey for decades now, and again the same with Porter and with Thurman. We're at that point where I think that we've got an older group and a younger group, but there's nobody in the middle that you're saying, we went through you guys, we went through this, we went through that one. Charles, is it make sense for the welterweights to say, we don't have to work the lead guys to say, whoever wins the Spence Crawford fight, if we have one, moves up to 154, and then Ennis moves up to 154, and Charlo stays at 154, or is there another scenario that we're missing here?
Well, I'll say this, because that's a fight I always wanted, but I know they don't think there's enough money and they want a bigger belt. They want belts. I always thought I wanted to see Boots fight Ortiz.
Okay.
I've been wanting that fight, and he went to another way and fought to this last guy. And I was like, well, because I think they know they feel like they're closer to the money, and somebody might slip up and give him a shot, and he might shock the world. But when you look at 147, the other thing that I think that might come out of this too is if the winner of, let's say, Crawford Spence does move to 154, then maybe Bush says, yeah, I could go to 154 and Charlo's at 154 and all that too, but I'm going to chill and I'm going to clean up 147. Because now it can become your world, and there's enough. Now we got Ortiz, we got a few people coming, and maybe some people coming from 140, right? Maybe time some people from 140 going, yeah, all right, I'm willing to come up and do some things. So truthfully, I think part of it could be where Boots could become his own guy at 147. And it might only take a couple of fights. You're like, you know what? I just want to say I'm undisputed 147. I get the belts real quick. And maybe within 2 fights, after my 2 fights, I'm going to 154. I'm going to see what's really going on. And from that standpoint, so he's starting to build the resume. He's also becoming a champion and standing on his own. Because I think that's the one thing that's kind of missing from Boots right now, is making enough of his name to stand on his own. And the way you do that, to get more respect and more acknowledgement by getting belts.
I'm so good.
I said, but by 147, with everything clears out, it's perfect.
Well, and if this fight gets made, if we're going there, the winner of, or let's put it this way, the 147 belts might be able to be had if you just scoop in the trash can and pick them up here in another few months. Because as you mentioned, I don't think that the winner of that fight or the loser of that fight, to tell you the truth, stays at 147. I think they both move up, because we're talking about Spencer Crawford. I don't think they're both tired of trying to make that weight. They're both tired of being there. And whatever happens, that money fight is gone. That's the money fight. Now the rematch could happen, and then the trilogy could happen. But and John, this is as hard as it's been for them to make one. Could they make 2 or 3? So I think what happens, and this is my opinion, they make this fight, if they make it, And then the winner says, or both of them go, now let's go see greener pastures up at 154.
Yeah, that definitely could be. I don't know. I have a feeling. Here I am with another feeling. So don't even listen to me on this. Don't even, everybody don't just go, here he goes again. I don't think Spence wants to go much longer. I think he's got maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
I do. I just think that he doesn't have anything to prove. I mean, he still does, but 2 more years, a few more fights, I think he's done. I do. I think he's come back from a horrific, as we know, he should have died. Let's be honest. I mean, it was a miracle he survived. I think his outlook is different. The guy's a really cool dude. He's going to make as much money as he can and try to get out of there more unscathed than he did when he had that terrible automobile accident. So fight Crawford, and then we'll see. You know what? I mean, I think he's been going back and forth with Boots on Twitter. So because Boots said something about I want to reel in the big fish, and Crawford said something, be careful, that big fish might bite you. And so that was good. So he might, who knows? He might think, well, okay, if I beat Crawford, maybe I'll hang around and fight the kid. But I got the same feeling. I don't think either him or Crawford are really anxious. Crawford would never say it because Crawford did back away from anybody, and neither would Spence. But I don't see them saying, well, yeah, okay, after this, that Boots guy, we're fighting. You notice that they're not saying that. We're not saying.
Let's bring him in the mix,
right? Even Spence is saying, okay, I'm going to fight you after I fight Crawford. He's just saying, be careful what you're saying. It's going to come back, get and bite you. But I pretty much agree. But I wouldn't be surprised with Spence if maybe he stayed down one more fight and then move up to 154 if he wins. Even if he loses to Crawford, I wouldn't be surprised if he says, see ya.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the guy's his own man, you know, and he does his own thing. He's got a great ranch, beautiful kids. So he doesn't have that much to prove, like I said. So a lot of, but again, this is a feeling. So never just, I'm right, I'm wrong, you know. So, but as human beings, and that's usually what I find fascinating about boxers, because they're so different than all of us, the way they can get in there and risk their lives for our entertainment. Mm-hmm. His outlook seems different to me now than a few years ago. You know, he admitted he was a big partier and all that, and he's not doing that anymore. He's changed his lifestyle, and he's taken advantage of his second shot here, and that's good. So we'll see. Crawford, totally different story. Crawford will fight anybody. He'd fight Joshua if they put him in the corner. Right. He's a totally different guy. Crawford is he's mean too. That's the thing about, real quick, the thing about Charlo against Crawford, because they're both mean, like Charles said, they're both incredibly competitive. And I always have to get my guy in here, and I'm going to do it again. When I was talking to Andre Ward about competitiveness, because I've been accused of being outrageously competitive to the point where I can be a bad loser. Right. I'm sure you guys are shocked. Yeah, Charles is surprised, but if Doug was here right now, she'd say it. She'd go, "Oh God, don't be around him," because one of those things. Play golf. Yeah. I was talking to Andre Ward about that, and he said, no matter what it is, tiddlywinks. If he doesn't win, he's giving you this. Yeah. And I mean, I could relate. Because I'm pretty much what I thought, man, is Andre even more competitive than me? I hadn't run into many people that are more competitive. So you got Charlo and Crawford, super competitive guys. Ooh, that would be something to see.
Edge goes to Crawford's mom. Anyway, now, okay, let's float this the other way, because we have coming up this weekend.
Benavides.
Just blew my mind. Benavides against Lemieux. Wow, that just started right out of my head. Now, Lemieux is one of those guys that a few years ago we were saying, or the world was saying, he's got a shot to be the guy. And so it's not like, now he's a little removed from that, but we need Benavides to be able to show that he is the real deal. Charles, can he do that? Can he make it so that Canelo and everyone says, all right, let's get in the ring with this guy? Because I think he's already shown it. But the one slip up when he didn't make weight, I think moved him in a position where they could go hands off and go, no, you're not serious about your craft?
I think he can do it. I think he needs to do it. He's been campaigning for a long time, saying how good he is. If he had a shot, he would do this, he would do that. Unlike Andre, he does have another shot. So, I mean, at least somebody is listening. So I think he needs to, because he's been talking about it for the longest time. So now it's like, okay, show us. The only way you do it is just, because some people are going to say it's kind of like a self-inflicted wound. He did it to himself, and people don't feel sorry for him. So the way you get back on that, instead of healing that wound, is using your prowess and your craft and your skills to make it happen. So this weekend, you just got to become a straight killer. You got to start mowing people down. You get an opportunity, knock that guy down. Anybody else say they got something else to say, got to mow them down. Then at some point, they're either going to say, you deserve the shot that you're looking for and you get your respect back, or they're going to say people are scared of you. And then that's still you keep you on equal footing where you still consider one of the best. So yeah, he can do it. I think he has to do it. I think if he comes in with excuse my language, a half-ass effort, and he comes in where he barely gets by, and particularly if he loses, he might as well just be quiet, because again, people like, you had the opportunity and you blew it. That's what some people say about Adrian Broner. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that right there.
I'm not sure if that was a shot at me or somebody else. I felt it sail by. Now, John, but here's the thing: is it? Yeah, it just winged me. Does David Lemieux see? This is where we, and I use we as most of the pundits and ourselves, where we tend to jump at, this is the guy whose fight it's supposed to be, so we consider that he's going to be the one we're concerned with. Is it as much about David Lemieux at this point as it is about David Benavides? Or should it be?
Well, this is it for Lemieux. It's
Right.
amazing he's only 33. He's only lost 4 fights, as we know, and he can punch. He was going to put Billy Joe Saunders in a coffin, and of course he didn't even touch him for 12 rounds. He just got
Right.
completely outboxed. He has stamina issues. His defense is leaky, but he has TNT in both hands. I mean, I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
What's that guy's name? Spike O'Sullivan. I mean, he knocked him into the next century with that fight. And Curtis Stevens, the way he knocked out Curtis Stevens. I mean, Curtis Stevens has never been the same since then. So he is just a bomber, and that's what he's. You know how we were talking last week about having a puncher's chance in a fight.
Right.
He has more than that because he has more skill. He's won some amateur tournaments, and he's a former champion. But he's fighting a guy younger, taller, and I think hungrier. So he's going to have to land a big bomb, because Benavides is not going to run from it. No way. So he's going to have his chances. Benavides is really exciting. It's true. Benavides is, as I said in my article I just wrote about him today, the man in the mirror is his issue. You know, he got popped for cocaine in his system. He missed weight. So his issue is himself, but he's only 25.
Right.
So he's probably, I'm thinking he's grown up now. You know, he's figured, okay, this is it for me. He's got skills. He should be able to take care of Lemieux, unless Lemieux lands one of those bombs, and that's what's going to be. He's got a killer left hook, Lemieux, and he thinks it's a killer, and it is. I mean, that guy knocks people, like I said, completely out. Interesting note, though, I was looking at his record. He fought his first fight in 2019 as a super middleweight, and he got knocked down twice against the guy that was barely even on the radar. So if that's an indicator of what could happen with Benavides, I don't think it's if, I think it is. So Benavides, he's a big favorite, like 6-1, Frank. Didn't we say
That's
that?
my point,
Canelo was 6-1.
That's my point, right? Exactly.
But it's different in the sense that he'd have to land a bomb to really change the outcome. I think Benavides will outbox him and use his reach and his youth and his speed and yeah. So he hits him with one of those left hooks, though. All bets are off.
Well, it's funny with Benavides because the dialogue has changed. When he first came out, it was like, well, the former fat kid to do this, he's made himself into that. And now it's like, we don't hear that story anymore. We don't hear what he was. We hear what we think he can be. And the thing about that is there's still somebody standing in the way who ain't bad. And as we've mentioned, as we've noticed before, that 6-1 isn't as unsurmountable of a price as it used to seem like it was. Whether it's we give the guy more credit, or again, I think what it is we've anointed this guy as the one that's going to win the fight, Charles, and we just discount the other guy. And as John said, Lemieux is not like he's chopped liver in there, but this is probably his last go round. But if we had to predict the fight, which we've been known to do on occasion one way or another here, is this something where we go, I don't know what the result's going to be, but it's going to be, I don't know what the round's going to be, it's KO or not, but Lemieux doesn't have a chance. Or is Lemieux, as John said, has a more than puncher's chance?
I think you have a puncher's chance because I'm going to go with Benavides. Benavides has talked very strongly about not getting another opportunity coming in. I think if he is the guy he said, he's improved, he got his mind all right, he's focused, I think he'll come in with bad intentions. And I think he knows that he's up against the wall and he deserves more respect. So in order to do that, that's what you got to do. So, yeah, I'm going to say that Benavides in 5, man. It might be 4. Might be 4.
Might be 4. Might be before 5. Then before 5 would be 4. Okay. All right, John.
I'm right there. I think it's going to be fast. I think Benavides is going to catch Lemieux early and just pound him. And again, Lemieux has that shot, but I think it's over. And I was going to say 5 too, so I'll say 6.
Well, I think it's one of those things where I think you're both right, and I'm not going to deviate from. I'm going to jump on the bandwagon here because yes, I know I usually am the contrarian here, but I believe that what happens is that Lemieux is going to find out, Benavides is going to find out early whether he has to fear Lemieux or not. And as we've seen Benavides when he's on his game, he's going to find that out really quick because he doesn't like to mess around. And once he figures that out, it's like, okay, now let's close the show. And so, yeah, I think 4 is completely reachable. And I'm not going to hedge my bet and say, well, but if this happens, I think it's going to be a short fight no matter what. Let's put it that way. But I think that it's going to be Benavides figures it out really quickly because, and this is a sad thing to say, Lemieux's going to find out real fast. He's either going to have to get him out of there fast or he's going out fast himself. And, once that realization kicks in, it's like now he gets defensive. He's not a defensive fighter. So,
Was that a shot at me when you said I'm not going to qualify that if, or was that I felt something whiz by me, Frank? So
well, is the shots been fired today? Let's just keep them going, and wherever they land is where they land. Let's put it that way.
That is not a qualifier, Frank. That is an information when you say but because boxing and sports does have those little intangibles. So you got to show depth as a commentator here and say, okay, I got this, but there is this, but likely iffy. So that was a shot fired right off the bow, Frank.
Hooked on a feeling. Anyway, but all right, so we've got this part out.
You sing that better than I do, though, Frank.
Well, I used to think I was professional, but nobody paid me for it. But the idea being that these things are starting to coalesce a little bit better than they have in the last few years, partly because of the pandemic, but also because I think we're getting the better fights. And we're getting the fights that I think that we've been asking for, with a couple of exceptions, obviously. But Charles, what are we missing? Because there's still, again, we could go back and do the research. When we say undisputed, now granted, undisputed is a rare thing. I get that. But when you talk about it, there are only a couple of them we can think of that are even close to being undisputed. What do we need either on the top end to get things more figured out of what's going on in any weight class, doesn't matter, or who are the up and comers that we need to see against somebody with some talent?
Wow, because that's all over the board. First of all,
sure,
I think that
Canelo, I had to sing first. You sing, then you dance. You sing, then you dance. That's it.
Canelo needs to leave 175, come down to 168, and get the real business done.
Okay.
And there's enough fight, and there's some people that think they can beat him. They beat them because of his loss. Triple G, Charlo, maybe even Benavides or something like that. There's some fights. And Andre, he'll never get a full shot. But anyway, but but there are some people there that may think that, and I think if Canelo came down to 168, and even if he beat Triple G, it's like, okay, y'all thought I was slipping. I'm back. I'm here at 168. Who wants some? And then he started making money again.
Rebuild.
Yeah, that kind of thing too. But the other person, I'm gonna throw another name out there. We are going to be able to see Kambosos versus Haney and whatnot. But I think it's time for somebody. This guy's gonna come in there, and you don't want to see him. I think he's feeling real good about himself right now, and he's gonna shake some people up. That's Tank Davis, Gervonta Tank Davis. I think wherever he goes and whatever he moves up to, people better watch out because people are running their mouths, and he's like, I'm about to leave Floyd, and I'm about to get Buck Wild. I'm about to get Buck Wild in the ring, and I think he's a very dangerous person to fight in the next year or so.
Okay, John, who steps out that says, okay, we need to get this done. We've danced around it long enough. We need to get this done. Or the guy that you're going, man, I see my shot. I see the path. Let's follow him.
Well, it's not necessarily that. I'm just curious what Teofimo Lopez is doing. Where is he going next? He's right there with Tank. He had the same weight, or is he going to move up to welterweight? What's his plan? I don't know if he has one, so I can't really say. And it's like Lomachenko. What's Lomachenko? I know he's fighting in the war of Ukraine. That's admirable. But what are his plans? So those guys have been on my mind. But Tank, I've been thinking about Tank like Charles because he's fighting on the 28th, and he's fighting a guy that hates him supposedly, Tank is one of those guys I think that doesn't seem to get the credit because in his previous fight he showed boxing ability, right. And I was impressed. It didn't seem like anybody else was. Oh, he didn't knock him out. It's like he's got more to his game than people give him credit for. So if he's going to leave Floyd Mayweather and find another promoter, maybe Eddie Hearn will probably sign him in like less than a second. He can go where he wants. I'm also wondering about Josh Taylor. He was stripped, like I said earlier. Who's he going to fight next? What's he going to do? He really lost that fight, I thought, in his last one. But whatever, he got the official win. Unofficially lost. There's a lot of guys that are kind of hanging there where you're like, okay, you're going to have to make a move. Jose Ramirez, the former WBA or WBC junior welterweight champ who gave Taylor hell. What's he going to do next? He just fought, right? So there's a lot of things, and then the guy that's gone quiet again, Ryan Garcia. Yeah, he won, but where is he now? Suddenly he's gone quiet again. So I think that the next 6 months of the year are going to be really interesting. And then one more plug on June 7th, Inoue Donier 2.
That's where I was going to go. Yep. That's where I was going to
go.
So let me jump at that one because that's when everything was going. That's what I'm thinking of. Because first of all, we hope Donier comes out of this unscathed. I think that's the first thing because the monster is a monster. So let's give it that. But there are so many possibilities or lack of possibilities depending upon what you look at. Because, and granted, no one is indestructible. But right now, the monsters look like he is that. So is he equipped to move up? Does he stay where he is? He's not getting a challenge there or he wouldn't fight in a Donier again, I don't think. Is he equipped to move up to the next level or 2 levels or whatever he has to do? That's going to be, I think, the telling thing of, is this guy going to be one of those guys that goes down as one of the best fighters that we've seen that hasn't had a chance to fight anybody? Or he's looked so good that that doesn't matter. So, Charles, I'll let you jump to that one real quick because let's not just solely focus on that. But have there been guys that have been so good or so good in their division that we didn't really give them respect for what they did? And we can go back decades if you want. But who do you look at and go, this guy was so good, we didn't pay attention to him?
Oh, wow. Inoue was there definitely from that standpoint. But I want to stay on something. I'm going to let John jump on that historically.
Okay.
I got one thing. I want to see one fight. And I don't know if it's going to happen. And it's going to take me 20 seconds to get this out. Inoue versus Gary Russell Jr. That's it. John?
I don't even know if there's commentary for that. Yeah.
John, the floor is yours, buddy.
Does Gary Russell want that? I mean, I don't know. He lost his last fight, right? But he was injured, so I'm going to give him the benefit.
Right.
I think if I'm him, I want a rematch because I was competitive with one arm. That's what I'm telling myself. In a way, he's there, but that's a big move up for Inoue. So I'm like an Inoue against Stephen Fulton. I think that would be a move up and fight him. Fulton really likes to bang. So that would be, he's a boxer, but he wants to fight. So Luis Neri and Figueroa, fighting Figueroa would be another brawl for Inoue. So I don't know what Mr. Gary Russell is doing right now. I haven't heard anything, but if I'm him, I'm focused on a rematch because I'm saying to everybody, oh, listen, look, I just let him, I loaned him the title for a little bit. This Filipino guy, I'm gonna show him who's better, and he should, because in my mind he is better. So he should, unless he's over the hill, and I don't think he is yet.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, but that's a good point, Charles. That's a nice way of looking at it, because there are matches that can be made. And again, if you want to use the Charles Former matchmaking service, just dial the number below. But the idea being, it should be a little more creative than it is right now. And that's why I think we're stuck. We get these 3 or 4 names in our heads. We go, it's got to be this guy, it's got to be that guy, it's got to be that guy. And we're leaving people off to the side. And I don't know why it's done that way, because we have enough people there that are getting a chance or should get a chance. But we kind of go, well, we've eliminated Andrade from all conversations. We've eliminated Luis Ortiz from all conversations. We've eliminated that guy. We've eliminated that guy. Why? Well, no one wants to fight them. Why not? Are they worth fighting? Is it something worth having? I don't know. That's going to be the interesting thing to see. How do we progress in the matchmaking part of this? Because that's part of our focus. We also want to see great fights. So now we look at that. Is there anything that let's just project out real quick for the last, but take about 30 seconds, John. Looking for the next 6 months. Anything that just jumps out at us and go, wow, this could happen, this couldn't happen.
I think the winner of Kambosos Devin Haney is going to get a great opportunity. And I'm not sure what happens there, but I think the winner of that fight is going to be in a position where they can literally, they can find out whether or not they're great or not. I think a lot of people are looking at that and saying, I want the winner, but I think that winner of that fight is going to get a great opportunity to prove themselves to be top-notch, definitely in pound-per-pound class. Okay.
John, anything that jumps out at you go, the next 6 months, this is going to crystallize, and we're going to go, oh, I'm glad that happened.
Well, you made me think about Gary Russell, and we got to talk about the featherweights real fast, because there's a ton of those guys, Josh Warrington and Gary Russell, and the guy, the Filipino Mark, whatever his name is, beat him. Emmanuel Navarrete, my favorite fighter.
Right.
I'm really, the fight in the future that has me intrigued is Usyk and Joshua too. I want to see what happens there, because Joshua has to win or he's done, as far as I'm concerned. And Usyk will fight the retired Fury, who will likely come out of retirement to fight him. That would be interesting to me. June is a big month usually, and I've been thinking about Inoue and Denier too, and I'm like, Charles, I'm kind of scared, and it's going to be on like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning out here, but I got to get up and watch it, and I hope I'm not going to see a car wreck. But I'm prone not to think that far in advance. But the Usyk thing, I heard that he lost a lot of weight while he was in the military, so he's had to trying to bulk himself up. So that might help Joshua. Joshua's always got some buzz around him that, who's his trainer now? I don't even know. So the soap opera of Joshua continues, and I've never been sold on the guy anyway, but I like the whole idea with Eddie Hearn doing his little things behind the scene. And so, yeah, that one's got me thinking. And of course, Haney and Kambosos, I would have said that first if you'd asked me. That one is going to be in Australia. Kambosos is going to have all those crazy Aussies, plus all their kangaroos screaming and jumping around for him. It's going to be very hard for Haney to win that fight. Something not being said, it took balls to go there to fight this guy in his backyard. Haney gets criticized all the time. Blah, he's not Sugar Ray Leonard. He's not this. He's not that. Hey, you go fighting a guy who just won the title with an upset with everybody coming, he's going to have to beat him decisively to get the decision. I mean, we know how it is. Unfortunately, you got to beat the champion to win the title. I know, but you shouldn't have to win 10 rounds to get the decision. You know, you should win 7 and get the decision. But in boxing now, you pretty much better win 8 or 9 rounds decisively, or the champion's going to get a draw, or the champion's going to win a split decision, and you can predict it. So you got to give it to Haney. I mean, he's going there to take it. Whether he can do it or not is another story, because we're not going to underestimate Mr. Kambosos again, like we would against
like before, right?
But Styles.
Yeah. So we're all in agreement that it's going to be Lemieux by first round knockout. And okay, all right.
That's you, Frank.
I didn't say that. You said that. Okay. Thanks again, gentlemen. It's been an interesting conversation, because this is where we're at. We're looking at the season again, where we're getting fights, and we're getting more fights, we're getting more things. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.